Hi, I'm Jan Pittman. I'm from Century 21, and I'm here with Mark Dayvault, an agent from our company, who has been with us for about 1.5 years. So Mark, how long have you been in the real estate business?
I've actually been in the real estate business for 22 years, dating back to July of 1992. But I was actually first licensed in 1984, and actually sold a condominium, oceanfront condominium at Sea Cabins way back then, but haven't been full-time except for 22 years.
22 years, wow, that's a long time. That's a long time.
It's
You're
a
the
long
dinosaur
time.
in the company then.
Yeah, I am.
As far as that goes.
Almost the dinosaur in the industry.
So, and what were you doing, prior to getting your real estate license?
For years prior to getting into real estate, I was in the insurance industry with Prudential and Nationwide, and did quite well there. My numbers were at the top of the list as far as those companies go. But what I didn't like about the insurance industry was you were selling typically an intangible object. People could not touch it,
feel it.
People actually hated to buy insurance, life insurance, health insurance. They just hate to spend that much money on something they can't put their hands on. And real estate was the other way around. When people buy something, they're going to live in it,
touch, feel,
rent it out.
Right.
They got something to put their hands on, a tangible object, and that was one of the main reasons I made the switch.
And what concerns did you have before getting into real estate?
Really, the only concern that I had was, did I have enough money to make it from, being on commission and salary to go on commission only? And I've known a lot of the agents even before I got into the business, and I could see who was doing well and who was not, and I knew, man, I can do what those guys do in a skinny minute. And so it really wasn't a concern of mine getting in, because I knew with my work ethic and the amount of training that I was going to take on my own, whether it was required by the company or not, I was going to learn the business and I was going to do well in it, and I have done very well.
Great. Well, your career took a detour and you went from sales agent to broker manager of a very successful company in town. Tell me how that happened and what brought you back to the sales side.
Well, it's a combination of things. After 9 years of being a sales agent with Century 21, I had reached the pinnacle there, had won the Centurion agent in 2 different decades, actually in the 90s and the 2000s. But I had always been recruited by many companies, and one in particular, which was the biggest company in town at that time. And the president of that company actually had taken me to Mexico when I was a senior in high school. His wife was my Spanish teacher. So he had been recruiting, and I told him, I said, if you ever get an office in North Myrtle Beach, give me a call. I never expected that to happen. Their nearest office was in Myrtle Beach and went south from there. But he called me one day and said, Mark, we just opened an office in North Myrtle Beach, and I want you to be in charge of it. So we talked for about a week or two, and he made me an offer really that I couldn't refuse. It really astounded me with what they gave me. So I had a small office in North Myrtle Beach. It was the smallest office in this 8-office company. It was the lowest producing office when I took it over. And in one and a half years, we took that from the lowest production office to the highest production office, or highest producing office in the entire company. And they had told me coming in, don't expect to be number one. You're competing against the big Surfside office, the big Carolina Forest office, but just do the best you can. But we astounded everyone by going to number one, and it stayed number one for many years until I elected to go back to the Century 21 side of things in the management with their company after they saw what I had accomplished with the other name brand company. I won't mention names. But I was dealing with 50 different agents, and knowing when I was an agent, I never had any problems. I did things the right way, ethically, morally. Things were done the right way, and I did a tremendous amount of business just by sheer reputation, referrals, that sort of thing. But when it all came to an end, when I decided I'm just tired, when I walked in on Monday mornings, I had 50 agents that had complaints about something, and it was just too much for me to bear after a while. So I decided to get back into the sales side of things. I could make more money that way. I didn't have the headaches to deal with, and that's when I started to interview different companies. I knew where I was going in my mind already, but I did want to check around. Like everybody says, you need to talk to the different companies. Even though in the management, I knew who all of the companies were. I knew what they had to offer because I was recruiting their agents at the same time.
Right.
So
You did have a little inside info there.
I had a lot of insight there. So that's the reason I came to Century 21, the Harrelson Group. I saw what this company had done. When I was in the management side of things, I was, with one of the Century 21 companies, top ones in the Carolinas.
Right.
And out of the blue comes this Century 21, the Harrelson Group, just out of nowhere.
Right.
And they jumped over to the top 3 companies, which all happen to be in the Myrtle Beach area in the Carolinas. And here come this Harrelson Group, which, who are they? Well, we come to find out that they're for real and they do things differently. And that's what I wanted when I got back into the sales side of things. I knew Greg as an acquaintance, and I knew his brother, Bobby, very well. So I interviewed with Greg a couple of times, and it's been a great fit ever since.
Fantastic. And what gave you the confidence you could make the move from management to sales again?
Well, I know the agents. I know what it takes to get the deal done, and I've trained many agents that have become very successful over the years. So I knew what it takes, but I didn't. One of the things I've never had was accountability.
Right.
And if you want that, if you want accountability, you want to be held accountable for. Greg had that. Greg's got the systems in place with the Harrelson Group and with Century 21 Barefoot that you can actually do anything that you want to do. You give him a formula, you want to do 30 deals a year, you want to do 50 deals a year, whatever that number may be, he's got it down to a science that if you do this, 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 and this, you'll get this at the end. And it's a numbers game, and he knows from start to finish how to get there. And it's been a great fit, and I am tickled to death to be here.
Well, we're tickled to death to have you, that's for sure. And how many sales do you think you're going to make this year?
I've already closed 38 this year so far. I've got 6 more pending. I put 2 more under contract this morning, as a matter of fact. And I've got a ton of listings getting ready to come on board. I'm going to be well in excess of 50, maybe close to 60 this year. I've hit 50 one time in 22 years, in the years that I was selling, but I'm going to surpass that by a long shot just within the first year and a half of being with Greg and his systems and his team.
Think about
here.
what next year is going to bring.
Oh, I can't
My
wait.
goodness.
I can't wait.
It's going to be fantastic. So I know that you've been inside a few different companies in this town. I mean, what do you think the big differences are between those companies and what we're doing?
The biggest difference is the training programs that you have available with Greg, and you have a mentor. If you've got a problem with anything whatsoever, making phone calls, setting up a database, following up with people, that's a big downfall with most people. They get somebody and they forget about them and they go on to buy somewhere else. But with Greg, you can go to him anytime, and a lot of people don't realize that because he's such a, they think Greg is up here, and he is, but he's never not available to help any agent in this company answer any question, help them succeed to whatever level they want to get to.
And people think he's this real estate god, but they don't realize how accessible he truly
That's
is to
correct.
his agents. Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And what's the best advice you'd give someone who is beginning a career in real estate today?
I would say talk to Greg Harrelson and his broker in charge to start with. If you want to go out and interview some other companies, that's great. But when you sit down and talk with this group, it's going to be a total different conversation altogether. You've got things here that no other company in town has or will ever have. Greg is the greatest trainer. He's just like Mike Ferry. He's just like him. For the people that know who Mike Ferry is, the greatest real estate trainer in the world, and Greg knows that system backwards and forwards, and he can help anybody get to that next level, whatever level that happens to be. If you're happy with 20 deals, that's fine. If you want to do 50, we have several agents that do well over 100. Brendan Payne's up there. Several others have reached that pinnacle as well. And I think Brendan even has a goal of 200 this year, which he can do. He's got the systems in place, and all you got to do is start here, do this, do this, do this, and whatever it is that you want, you can make it. You can make it happen. The only ceiling will be whatever your thought pattern is at the time. If you think you can only do 20 or 30 deals a year, you're right, and Greg teaches that as well. But If you want to go far beyond that, you'll do that as well. The only ceiling will be your mind.
Exactly. So it's just all about where you believe that you can be.
That's exactly right.
So believe it, achieve it.
You can get to any level with this company that you want to do, but you got to believe it. You got to follow the systems in place, and you'll get there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had the pleasure of working with you side by side for about 6 months or so, right?
Right.
In the training center, having a great old time doing some prospecting and that
Oh,
together.
yeah.
And I knew that you were absolutely a person that was extremely coachable, and that's what it takes to be successful in this business. You have to have a good mindset and be coachable and believe that other people can really help you get where you want to go.
Yeah, I was really amazed after being in the business as long as I had before I actually came to work here for Greg and his organization, as to what I wasn't doing that I could have been doing for all those years.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see it the first year and a half. You know, I wasn't even with the company for a full year, and I did 25, which is most agents in our marketplace do about 3 to 4 deals a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I closed 25 from the time I joined the company last year till December. I'm already at 38 here in the first 2 weeks of August, closed deals. You know, they're done under. We've gotten paid money for it. And I've got a lot more on the table, and there's tomorrow there's probably going to be several more on top of that.
So it kind of makes you want to turn back the clock, think about where you'd be if
I
you
wish
started.
I could. I wish I could.
I know.
Greg wasn't in the business when I started, but I saw what he and his company have done over the years, and I said, you know, how can anybody do that amount of business? Well, until you get to know Greg and learn the systems that his company has, you'll never fully understand it.
Well, Mark, in one sentence, how would you describe our company?
It's an amazing company. There's no other company in town that even comes close to having the training programs, someone to go to if you need advice on anything. It's the greatest move I've ever made in 22 years in real estate. I'll say that.
Fantastic. Well, we certainly love working with you, so we look forward to our future together.
Oh yeah, me too.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Jan.